Welcome back to another construct video, and in this video we're going to try and create the impossible game. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to reduce our window size massively. So we're just going to click anywhere to open our layout properties. We're just going to take this number here. We're going to go down to 448 by 256. We're going to copy those two numbers, go to our project properties, and we're going to apply the same to the viewport size so our camera fits inside our whole layout. So when we are playing our game, we don't need to move around the level. We can see the whole level in one go. So first thing we're going to do is add a background. So we're going to go to layer 0 and add a background color. Now I drop the color of the level, and it's 179 by 179 by 225. And this is the background color of the standard game. But again, this is your game now. You can do what you'd like with it. To create the actual level itself, this would normally take lots of sprites and lots of work. We're going to actually make use of something called a tile map. So I'm just going to scroll down and find a tile map, and I'm going to call this level. Click anywhere to place it. And what I've done to make life a bit easier today is I've created the tile map already, and I'll put it in the link in the description. So if you want to follow along with this tutorial, download that image and you can add it as your tile map. Once you load it up, it looks a little bit like this, and this looks a little bit strange, but it's all going to make sense really, really soon. So close this, and we should have our tile map in, covering the whole of our level. It should be the same size, 448 by 256. Now I need to do a couple of things with this. First of all, we're going to change the tile width to 16 and the tile height to 16 as well. And all these tiles were created in a 16 by 16 space. We can then open up our tile map panel. Now, if you don't have this panel for any reason, I'm just going to close mine. I'll show you how to get it back. We just go Menu, View, Bars, and we can get the tile map bar. I just drag this normally into this location here, but you can place it where is preferable for you. And we can zoom in on this a little bit as well, so we can see it a little bit more easier. Now, we can just take these at this point and we can start building our level together, and we can use these to create our borders. But this is very time consuming, it's very, very slow. So I want to show you a way that's a little bit quicker. I'm going to show you this object here, the auto tiling brush. So I'm going to edit brush, and what it's going to do is ask me to set my brush up. So zoom in once, and we're going to start with this first item here. This first item here, we're going to link to this one here, which is tile 17. We're then going to take these three tiles, 1, 2, and 3. Then this is where it gets a bit more complicated. We're going to do this left strip first, even though it doesn't want us to. So we're going to do this one here, go down to 8, this one here, and the one at the bottom. Now for this big section here, we're going to take this top corner, then this middle, and then this top corner. Next row, we're going to take just the left panel, then the middle, and then the right, and then click again. Then we can do the bottom corners, the bottom edge, and the bottom corner, and just hit X. So once you've done that, you're now able to grab the auto tile brush, and this gives you a single square. Now what's special about this square is if you click once, it'll place a square. If we click twice, it'll join them together. And from this, we can start building up a really, really basic level. So I'm just going to create a path in the center, like so, maybe an extra tile wide, and I can do the same on this side. And you'll see the border goes automatically round for us. I'm going to say my end's going to be there, and my start's going to be down here. And let's put one more row in like so. This is a really, really quick and easy way to build a level using a tile map. So definitely one to play around with and get used to. So now we've got our level, we can start adding in our player. So we're going to right click, making sure that you first click on this cursor here. This will take you off the tile map. I like going back to the layers. So right click, insert new object, and go down to sprites, and we're going to create our player. Click anywhere. And our player, we're just going to fill in a red color, and then we can resize our player. Now, because each grid is 16 by 16, I recommend making your player, so let's change the size, not the position. Let's make our player 8 by 8. This means he fits comfortably into the space provided of the level. And on our player, we're just going to add one behavior, and that's going to be the 8 directions. As our whole level is contained inside our camera, we don't need to worry about scroll to, so 8 directions is the only one we need for this game. Now in terms of its properties, we're going to have to change a couple of them. First of all, max speed you want to drop down, because it's a smaller level, your character's going to feel really fast. We might also want to drop acceleration down a little bit as well. Finally, turn the set angle off to no. Now if we hit play, we've now got our character that we can move around the level, like so. Now the downside is we can go off the level. Now this is where tile maps get a little bit complicated. There is a way that we can add collision onto a tile map and even to a certain part of the tile map. But the way the construct works, there's issues that we can't deal with. For instance, if we take this tile over here that's got a line on each side, we can't set up 2 collision boxes. So we can't set up 2 different ones, which means we cannot do collision for this particular tile. So we've either got to get rid of that tile, which means our corridors are really wide, or we've got to come up with a different solution. We're going to take the different solution route. So what I'm going to do is insert a new object, scroll down, create a sprite. This is going to be called border. Click anywhere, and we're going to fill it in. I'm just going to fill mine in black and press the X. Now I'm going to resize this straight away, and this is going to be 16 by 16. And I also recommend just dropping the opacity down to about 50%. Now in the game, this is going to be invisible, but we want to see it in our testing just for now. So what we're going to do is, if there is not a tile being placed, we want to place a border instead, and this is going to have the solid behavior. So let's actually start by adding this behavior, and then we're going to get it working so it places one in every spot that isn't a tile map. So we're going to go to our event sheet. I'm going to start by adding a global variable, and this is going to be index width. And this is going to be a number. Next, we're going to do a system check, and we're going to do on start of layout. Now, when you click on the far left, you can right click and you can add what's called a sub event. So these sub events only trigger if the condition above is true. So this will only trigger at the start of layout. So you can add a new one here, and this is going to be a repeat. Now the number of times you want to repeat for is the original viewport width divided by our tile size, which is 16. And every time we do this, what we want to do is take our system and we want to set the value of our index width to loop index. Now loop index is just the current iteration of that loop. So that loop is going to loop 16 times. So every single time it loops, this value goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 16. This gives us a way that we can look at every single tile across the top row. Now we want to be able to do the height as well, so we can get every single tile across the screen. So again, we're going to click on the far left, right click, and we're going to add a sub event. This is also going to be a repeat, but this time it's going to be the original viewport height, and again divided by our tile height. I'm just going to add a second condition to this now. I'm going to do level, compare tile at, and this is going to be set to width or index width, and loop index, and this is the second loop now that we're doing of our height. I'm going to check if this is less than 0. If it's less than 0, it means it doesn't exist. It's the only way it can be less than 0 in our tile map, so we're checking for any spaces. If this is the case, we're going to go to actions, system, and create object, and we want to create a border. Now this border is going to be the index width times the tile size, which is 16, and then this is where it gets a little bit strange. Now when we're dealing with tile maps, we actually start every tile in the top left corner, but when we're dealing with objects, we take the origin point, which is in the center. So what we have to do is actually add 8 to this, so half the size of the tile. So this one's going to be loop index times 16 plus 8. And we've just done the most complicated code of this whole project by far. So now if we run this, you'll see that the screen is covered in black squares, but actually only on the borders. It never actually goes onto the main map itself, only around the borders, and this stops our character from being able to leave our tile map now. So a little bit complicated, but now it's all set up, it's all done. And we can even take our border now, and we can turn the initially visible off. So now we've got that done, we've got all the hard work out the way, we can now do the easy bits, which is getting the end in, getting some coins and some enemies in, and creating a new level. So we're going to insert a new object, scroll down to sprite, and we're going to write end. Click anywhere, and I'm going to get a nice green and fill this in. Now again, we need to resize this. So we're not going to resize this to like 16 by 16, we're actually going to do 14 by 14. Now this seems like a bit of an odd decision, but it means that we can fit it in, and this will take a little bit of positioning to get right, and you probably want to make use of this to round these down. I'm going to do 359 and 87, and I'm going to have to go one more up, so 400, 360. And it means that we can make use of the borders that we've already got. So it's going to take a little bit of messing about to get that right, but you'll see that we've got the natural border that we've already set up our tile map done for us. We can shrink this down and get it to fill a bigger gap if we want to. So I've got my end in place now. Now I'm going to actually create my coins next before I create my enemies. So I'm going to go sprites and coins. And if you've never played the Impossible game, the aim is to collect all the coins without being hit by the enemies. So we want to create a way that the game only ends if we collect the coins. Now for my coins, I'm going to take the color black and the color yellow, make sure yellow is the top one. I'm then going to use the circle tool and make sure border's on and a border thickness of about 5. I'm just going to hold shift and fill it in from the center. Can now crop it. It's really important that we check the center point is roughly in the center. So mine was a little bit out. So we can click exit and again resize these down to a size that makes sense for your game. So I'm going to make them fairly small and I'm going to put them in each corner. So now these are in place, we now need to do a check to see if the player's picked up all the coins when they've got to the end. Now at this point in the game, we've added lots of stuff since our player, so we're just going to right click on our player and make sure he's at the top. We can then go to our event sheet and we can add a new event. So we can now say if player is overlapping another object, and this is going to be our end. Hit done. And we're going to add another condition on top of this, which is going to be a system condition comparing two variables, and we want to say coin.count, so how many coins are there, equals 0. So only if there's 0 coins left do we get to the end. And if we do get to the end, we're going to go to system and go to next or previous layout. I'm just going to go to the next one. So as we set up more levels, it will automatically go to the next level. Now we also need to check if the coin's being destroyed, so we're going to do player is overlapping a coin. Then we go to coins and destroy. So before we do a test, we should really have a second level to go to. So what I'm going to do is take layout 1. I'm going to rename it to level 1. And then I'm going to duplicate this to level 2. I'm going to double click on it. Now it's really important that you check which tab you're working in. There's so many times where I've edited the wrong level by mistake, and it's just a lot of hard work wasted, and you have to go back and fix it all. So for level 2, I'm going to keep it exactly the same, but I'm just going to take my tile map, go back to my tile brush, and I'm just going to add a random section up here, just so we can see that this is a new level. And I'll tell you what, we'll do the same down here to even it out. So that's my level 2. So if I get to the end after collecting coins, it should take me to this new level. I'm going to go back to level 1 and hit play. So I'm going to collect the coins. You'll see they disappear as I get to the end of them. And then if I touch the green, we'll go to the next layout. Now we also want to test what happens if we don't collect the coins. So we're going to go right to the end this time. And nothing happens. I can touch the end, I can sit there, but I haven't collected all the coins. So we're nearly there now. We just need to add some enemies. Now there's two main enemies I want to add today. So we're going to start by adding a spinning blade. So I'm going to scroll down to sprites. I'm going to call this spinning blade. Click. And for this one, I'm just going to keep it really simple. I'm going to grab the square tool, grab a blue, have the black at the bottom. I'm going to add a thin border to this as well. And make this fairly thin. Once we're done, we can crop it so it gets rid of all the excess hitbox. And then we can grab the origin point, and again that needs to be as center as possible because that is going to be where it's going to spin from. It's going to spin from center. So we can hit the X on this now, and again we resize it to a size that makes sense for our level. So I'm just going to place that there, and once we've got that there, we can add in our behavior, and this is a really simple one. We're just going to add the rotate behavior. Now we've got the properties to rotate, so we've got speed and acceleration. Acceleration makes it actually speed up over time. You probably want to avoid that because after a while it just becomes impossible. So we just want to stick to the standard speed. And we're just going to have to do a manual test of this to see how fast that is. And we can soon edit that to make it slower. If you are on Construct Premium, you can also just preview this to get a better idea as well of how fast it's going. And I think 90 is a really, really nice speed. I think that's fair for the player. Now we can quickly add this to our event sheet to restart the level if we touch it, and that's just as simple as doing player is overlapping object, spinning blade, and then instead of destroying the player, we're actually going to restart the level. So under system, restart layout, so you start from the beginning again. And this will work depending on your level 1, level 2, it will go back to the start of that particular level. So we're nearly done. We've got one final enemy to add, and these are the enemies that move up and down or left and right all over the screen. So we're going to scroll down to our sprites, and we're going to call this moving enemy. And again, I'm just going to grab the circle tool for this. I'm going to do a thin border, and I'm just going to make this a circle, crop it, check the origin point, and then hit X. I'm then going to resize this to a size that makes sense. So I think there, and I'm going to copy and paste this and have 3 of these. When working inside of Construct, if you were to click on the right hand side, it selects all objects. So if we add the behavior that we need, such as the sign behavior, now we've got all of them selected, we can edit the properties of all of them at the same time. So I want them to move vertically, so it affects all 3. They're going to move in a sine wave, which just means they're going to move up and down. They're not going to teleport at all. 4 seconds to get there. And then the magnitude is set to 50. Now, magnitude is a little bit confusing with sine. So it's whatever half the distance you want it to go. So because I know it's 4 tiles, it's 64. I'm just dividing that by 2. So if I click on just one of them, I can just edit one of them only, and it doesn't edit any of the others. So for this one, I might want this one to move horizontally. But what I'm actually going to do is do this period offset. So what this does is this offsets it by a couple of seconds to the others. Now, because these take 4 seconds, if I offset this one by 2, it's going to be doing the exact opposite of what they're doing at that particular time. So this works best if I test it. And you see as one goes up, the other one goes down. And they'll stay perfectly in sync like that. And this is a really common enemy behavior that we see in the Impossible game. And we can do the same for going side to side as well. And again, it just makes sure we're clicking on one and not clicking on all of them. So finally, we need to just make this enemy killers. So we can actually take line 6, add a new condition to it, and check if the player is overlapping our moving enemy. we do need to make sure that this is converted to an ore block. If not, you'd have to touch both the spinning blade and the moving enemy at the exact same time to die. We want them to touch one or the other. So let's do a test. So now if I touch the spinning blade, the game ends. But if I move around it and avoid these enemies and collect the coins, I can make it to the end. But if I accidentally touch one of these enemies, the game starts again and we've got to make it to the end of this level. If we make it to the end of the level with everything collected, we'll start our level 2. And then we can keep expanding this as long as we want. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video today and learned a bit more about tile maps and learned how we can create lots of different assets really easily. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.